The Simpsons has outlived presidents, monarchs, religious leaders, and even entire countries, making us mostly laugh the entire time. And while the show is most famous for the big jokes and in-your-face humour that it throws at viewers at a rapid pace, there are also subtler moments in The Simpsons that are far more important than they first appear. So with that in mind, I'm Josh from Whatculture.com, and this is The Simpsons Moments More Important Than You Realised. Homer becomes safety inspector. In the Season 1 episode, Homer's Odyssey, Homer loses his job at the Springfield power plant after causing an accident at work. After his dismissal, Homer falls into a deep depression and even contemplates suicide. However, after seeing his family nearly get run over, he finds a new purpose in life and becomes an advocate for safety in the town. This results in Homer being rehired by Mr. Burns as the power plant's safety inspector. And at the time, who would have thought that Homer would still be working in that same job over 3 decades later? Homer's job title has come up a few times across the show's history and has played its part in the plots of some episodes. It has also become a key part of his character, and it all stems from one episode in the show's very first season. And considering that pretty much everything resets in Springfield after an episode ends, it's remarkable that Homer's profession has remained consistent over the years. Tom Landry's hat. In the classic Season 8 episode, You Only Move Twice, Homer gets a new job in the town of Cypress Creek. His new boss is none other than Hank Scorpio, business tycoon and the world's greatest supervillain. Despite his dastardly intentions, Scorpio inspires a new level of confidence in Homer, and this, in turn, inspires him to make an extravagant purchase. In doing so, he buys himself a hat that is signed and was worn once by legendary NFL player and coach Tom Landry. He then wears the hat while working, instructing his colleagues as if he were Landry coaching a team. It's a funny gag in the episode and a neat Easter egg for American football fans, but who would have guessed that this hat would become a recurring figure in the show? The hat itself turns up in Season 9's Bart Star, where Homer becomes the coach of his son's Little League team. It appears again in numerous sports-themed episodes, including when Marge wears it to make Homer's fantasy football picks for him. Used as a motif by the writers when they want to show a character taking sport seriously, the Tom Landry hat has far surpassed its predicated lifespan. Sideshow Bob's family. Sideshow Bob is of course one of The Simpsons' greatest recurring characters. Originally beginning life as Krusty the Clown's long-suffering sidekick, Bob takes on a dark edge when he is revealed to have framed the Harlequin for armed robbery. Over the years, Bob has become one of the show's most reliable villains, as he goes to more and more extreme lengths to get revenge on the person who sent him to prison in the first place, that of course being Bartholomew J. Simpson. The character got a nice little bit of backstory in Season 8 when we were introduced to his brother Cecil as well, voiced by David Hyde Pierce. And this is very important because the casting is a very meta nod to another classic comedy show. That's because Pierce plays Niles Crane in Frasier, the brother of the title character. And who plays Frasier Crane? Well, it's none other than Sideshow Bob's own voice actor, Kelsey Grammer. Not only is this a very clever, very subtle joke, but it also acts as foreshadowing for another member of Bob's family to come. See, in Season 19's Funeral for a Friend, we meet Bob and Cecil's father, as voiced by the late John Mahoney. And who is John Mahoney? Well, of course, he's the actor who plays Frasier and Niles' father in Frasier, which is just, yeah, it's brilliant. Jamshed takes over the Kwik-E-Mart. In the episode Homer the Heretic, Apu leaves his young nephew Jamshed in charge of the Kwik-E-Mart while he's away. After proclaiming that he's been waiting for this day to finally come, the young boy then pulls out a shotgun and aims it at some shoplifters. Now the youngster must have gotten a taste for business that day, as 24 years later, a now grown-up Jamshed once again takes over the store. In the Season 27 episode, Much Apu About Something, Jamshed, or Jay for short, acquires his father Sanjay's shares in the business, and Jay transforms it into an all-natural health store and ousts his uncle as its head. For a modern episode of the show to go this far back in time to bring a character back is kind of admirable, and it was a great decision to give long-term viewers a neat little payoff to this character, rewarding them for their loyalty over so many years. In doing so, though, we've kind of all got to just agree to not think about how Jay has grown up, but Apu has stayed the same age. Yeah, Simpsons logic isn't real logic after all. Don't stick your arm out the window. As the grouchy owner of Springfield's military antique store, Herman, yes, that is his real name, is one of The Simpsons' most recognizable figures, owing to the fact that he only has one arm. When Bart first meets him in Season 1, he asks the rather impertinent question of how Herman lost his arm. The store owner replies, implying that it was ripped off by a truck when he stuck it out the window of a bus. This suitably freaks Bart out, but he probably shouldn't have been too surprised by this tale, as he'd actually heard it before. In the aforementioned Homer's Odyssey, Bart goes on a field trip with his class to the power plant, and before the children leave on the school bus, Mrs. Crabapple warns them about sticking their appendages out of the window because of a young man who had his arm torn off by a truck. Now, who does that sound like? It's clear that the writers were foreshadowing Herman's appearance with this line, who was meant to play a much bigger role in the series than he actually did. Nevertheless, it's still a neat little tidbit. Homer's secret genius. The writing team on The Simpsons is full of maths nerds. There's even been a book written about all of the different mathematical references in the show, and one such example is in the Season 10 episode, The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, in which Homer becomes obsessed with inventing something to rival Thomas Edison. In one scene, we see him writing equations on a chalkboard, and this might just seem like a random collection of numbers to the untrained eye, but to the mathematical geniuses out there, or those of us who looked it up on Google, this is very close to one of science's greatest recent breakthroughs. That's because Homer has actually written an equation to solve the mass of the Higgs boson, a subatomic particle important in the world of particle physics. In 2012, the boson was finally discovered after years of searching, and yet Homer wrote his equation in 1998. Now this suggests that the Simpsons patriarch is actually a genius, something that is proven 2 seasons later when it's discovered that Homer's genius IQ is being inhibited by a crayon lodged in his brain. Was this a clever bit of foreshadowing, or was it just writer David S. Cohen messing about? You decide. Chunky Lover 53. Homer isn't always the world's greatest father. In fact, he's rarely ever even a decent father, let alone the best on the planet. And he realizes this in Season 14's The Dad Who Knew Too Little, and hires a private investigator to learn more about Lisa's life. When he's talking to the PI, Homer gives out his email address, which is chunkylover53@aol.com. An extended joke is made at the address's expense, but in the real world, it's actually no laughing matter. See, writer Matt Selman had actually registered the chunkylover53 handle before the episode aired. He wanted to see if anyone would actually email it, and this was definitely before the peak of the internet when we know they definitely would, and naturally, even at the time, people did. Once the episode aired, Selman checked the inbox and found that it was full. Selman then started to reply to the emails with witty responses, but this got understandably quite tiring after a while, and he started to use a stock response instead. However, what began as a nice little bit of fan service almost got Selman in big trouble when an account with the name chunkylover53 used a fake link to an online exclusive episode of the show, or so people thought, to actually install malware on people's computers. Patty's sexuality. Though Smithers finally came out in Season 27, Marge's sister Patty beat him by a full decade when she came out in the episode There's Something About Marrying. In this episode, she comes to Homer for help, as he's the only person in town who will perform same-sex weddings. The episode also deals with Marge's troubling response to her sister's revelation and her eventual acceptance of who she is. Although she probably should have figured it out, as there were plenty of signs before this. See, in Treehouse of Horror 3, Patty says, "There goes the last lingering thread of my heterosexuality," upon seeing Homer naked. The biggest canon clue to Patty's sexual preferences, though, came in the episode Jaws Wired Shut, where she and Smithers could be heard participating in a pride parade from inside the closet. What was just a throwaway gag to begin with hinted not only at Patty's future revelation then, but also at Marge's future obliviousness, as in Jaws Wired Shut, she also says that it would be great if the man and woman in the closet got together. Oh, Marge. B Sharp's royalties. Have you ever wondered how the Simpsons family can even afford the lifestyle they have? 3 kids, 2 pets, 2 cars, a large house, paying for Grandpa to live in the retirement home, and we know how expensive that is from The Sopranos, all their trips out abroad and all their many vacations, all on a single income. How the hell do they do it? Well, the simple answer is Homer still gets royalties from his time in the B Sharps. As revealed in the Season 5 opener, Homer's Barbershop Quartet, Homer used to be part of a very successful musical group alongside Principal Skinner, Apu, and Barney. Chief Wiggum was also there for a little bit, but don't mention that, he's still a bit bitter. The B Sharps, as they were known, were a total sensation of their time. They topped the charts, performed at national events, and even won a Grammy. They may have disbanded after just a month or so on top, but presumably their songs are still being played somewhere. Thus, Homer must receive some royalty checks. Now, it might not be a lot of money, but it would certainly be enough to support his family and afford them the comfortable life that they enjoy. Mac's influence on Lisa. Sir Paul McCartney is one of the most influential musicians of all time. As a member of the Beatles, he helped shape modern music as we know it and influenced generations of fellow singers and players to come. He, along with his first wife Linda, also revolutionized vegetarianism with their range of meat-free products. Oh, and he also single-handedly changed The Simpsons forever. See, Paul and Linda made a guest appearance in the episode Lisa the Vegetarian, where they helped convince the Simpson child to stick to her anti-eat meating stance. And after this episode, Lisa never willingly eats meat again, and that's all down to the former Wings frontman. As one of the conditions for coming on the show, McCartney requested that Lisa must not revert back to being a meat eater for the rest of the series. And so, the writers obliged, and Lisa's character was changed forever. Now, the idea of Lisa Simpson eating meat seems laughable these days, as her vegetarianism is so deeply ingrained in her character. However, it took the writers 7 years to get there, and even then, they required a push from one of the most famous men on the planet. Homer owns the Denver Broncos. Homer is able to fund his family's eccentric lifestyle through royalty checks from his days in the B Sharps. It is a fanciful theory for sure, but if that crazy idea doesn't suit you, then how about this one involving an NFL franchise? In the much-praised Season 8 episode, You Only Move Twice, Homer receives a gift from his former boss, the megalomaniacal supervillain Hank Scorpio. After Homer inadvertently assisted Scorpio in his quest for world domination, the mega-rich nutjob decided to splash some cash and buy his former employee, the Denver Broncos. This comes after a conversation where Homer revealed to Scorpio that his dream was to one day own the Dallas Cowboys. Well, you've got to start somewhere, I suppose. Many Simpsons fans online then have suggested that this might be yet another source of income for the family. Owning a football team would rake in some serious coin, and the Broncos have only gotten better since You Only Move Twice was released, or at least so I'm told. So yeah, it kind of turns out Hank was a nice guy after all. Well, if you discount all of the people that he murdered in cold blood, but who's counting? The Olmec head. In Season 2's Blood Feud, Bart saves Mr. Burns' life when it's discovered that the two share the same rare blood type. To thank the boy and his family for keeping him alive, Burns sends them the generous gift of a thank you card. There wasn't even a check inside. This escalates then to the point where the billionaire's about to fire Homer when he realizes the error of his ways. To make up for a rubbish first present, he sends the Simpson family a very unique offering. In fact, he bestows upon them a colossal Olmec head, a large carving of a human head in the style of the Olmec people of ancient Mesoamerica. Whilst the family are initially baffled by the head, they do eventually accept it when Bart decides he likes it. Although, to be fair, he was happy with the crowbar used to open the crate in the first place. While you might have thought this was just a one-and-done affair, the head has appeared in the background of dozens of episodes over the show, most often in the family basement. And seeing it in newer episodes is a nice reminder of the show's humble beginnings, even if the head itself doesn't actually do anything. Mary Spuckler. This episode of The Simpsons is kind of all over the place. Thankfully, it's called Apocalypse Cow, which is a name so great that it kind of makes up for all of its other shortcomings. In said episode, Bart ends up raising a baby cow, going mad in a field, then rescuing it from slaughter. He does this with the help of Mary Spuckler, the most intelligent offspring of Cletus and Brandine, although that's damning with faint praise of the highest order. There's a plot where Mary and Bart almost get married as well, but the episode remains mostly about the cow. This all changes though when Mary comes back into Bart's life 5 seasons seasons later. In Moonshine River, another great title, Bart tries to convince Mary to be in a relationship with him after he figures that he's only got so many chances left at love. But wait, isn't Bart like 10? If he's got no chance at love, then I guess the rest of us are just screwed. Well, Mary herself turns up a few more times across the show, most notably in the episode Love is a Many-Splintered Thing. Few could have expected, though, that Mary would appear in multiple episodes of the show when she first arrived, but hey, that's young love for you, I guess. Homer becomes sterile. The second and final appearance of Homer's half-brother Herb, so far anyway, comes in an episode called Brother, Can You Spare 2 Dimes? While this story ends with Herb patenting a baby translator in an attempt to rebuild his fortune, it starts with Homer getting some rather bad news about his swimmers. See, a medical examination reveals that years of working in close proximity to nuclear radiation has left Homer sterile. Now, Homer and Marge didn't plan to have any more kids anyway. Well, that was the case for 21 seasons, until the episode Adventures in Baby Getting came along. In this one, Marge reveals her hidden desire to have another child, only for Homer's sterility to be re-revealed. And we're not sure why, I mean, considering she'd known about it for over 2 decades. Maude at Lisa's wedding. When The Simpsons first did an episode set in the future, it was fine. It was cool to see older versions of our favorite characters and what the world of tomorrow looked like. Now, though, they've done this trope all the flaming time, and it gets really boring because nobody cares about Bart's stupid kids. But the episode where we first get a glimpse of things to come is Lisa's wedding from season 6, when the middle Simpson kid comes across a fortune teller in the woods. Set in the long-distant future of 2010, we follow a grown-up Lisa and her ill-fated engagement to snobby Englishman Hugh Parkfield. Guests at the doomed wedding include a wheelchair-bound Krusty, a recently defrosted Mr. Burns, Ned and Maude Flanders, and... wait a second, Maude Flanders? The same Maude Flanders that would be killed off in episode first broadcast in the year 2000? How the hell can this be? Well, Maude's appearance in this episode proves that the fortune teller is talking a load of BS and has no idea what she's on about. But of course, we'd only know that once Maude actually did bite the dust. Marge's gambling problem. Every so often in The Simpsons, something will happen to a character that permanently affects their personality. This happens to Marge in Springfield, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love Legalized Gambling. Aside from having one of the longest episode names in the history of the show, it also shows Marge developing a gambling habit by spending too much time playing the slots. The ending of this episode is actually quite dark as well, as Marge's issues don't get resolved, and she just has to live with them, a startlingly realistic approach to portraying addiction. Despite the bleakness of this ending, though, many fans just assumed that we would never hear about Marge's problems ever again, but oh boy, do we. Her issues with gambling come up time and time again, more often than not for comic effect. There's a joke about throwing vodka in Maggie's face after a game of Candyland that would be funny if it weren't so alarming, and Marge even goes full Danny Ocean and joins a team of card counters to help fix the church in season 26. Principal Skinner's prison number. Now this one is actually kind of really clever. It's a well-known joke that Principal Skinner's old Vietnam prisoner helmet, as shown in the episode Homer's Barbershop Quartet, displays the number 24601. And of course, this is the same number that Jean Valjean is branded with in the musical Les Miserables. And yeah, we know it was a book first, but honestly, who has time to read all of that? Whilst this might just seem like the writers nodding to their favorite stage show, or I guess book, but I don't believe it, the comparisons between Skinner and Valjean run much deeper than just a number. For instance, after being released from prison, Valjean must assume a new identity in order to advance in society, and under his new name, he eventually becomes the respected mayor of a large town. Now think about Seymour Skinner, real name Armin Tamzarian. He too took on a new name and used it to achieve a position of influence in the community, and like his literary counterpart, his world also crumbles when his secret is found out. Clues about Skinner's deception were there all along, and we just never saw them. Lisa and Nelson. Ralph Wiggum, Hugh Parkfield, Daniel Radcliffe's Edward Cullen parody, freaking Milhouse. When it comes to guys, Lisa Simpson is fresh out of luck. And all of this is without mentioning Nelson Muntz, with whom Lisa had a brief attraction to in the episode Lisa's Date with Destiny. Well, as it turns out, this romance was far from brief, as it has cropped up a bunch of different times over the show's subsequent episodes. In fact, Nelson is often shown displaying favoritism towards Lisa, leaving her out of his bullish actions, and he even goes to some pretty extreme lengths, for him anyway, to impress her, including reading some books. The idea of the pair ending up together actually came full circle in the season 34 episode when Nelson met Lisa, which imagines the life of the two if they got together in adulthood. And this came a whole 26 years after she and Nelson first became an item. This love story has been one of the most enduring and surprising in the show's entire history. Maybe they'll pay it off fully one day, or maybe Nelson will leave Lisa at the altar to throw coleslaw at Skinner's house again, I don't know. Homer in a coma. Now this one is purely speculative, but the theory really does hold some water. In an episode titled So It's Come to This, a Simpsons clip show, Bart decides to prank his old man by seriously shaking up a can of beer. However, Bart did such a good job that when Homer opened the can, it exploded with the force of a neutron bomb. This left Homer in a vegetative state for 7 weeks and caused him to lose 5% of his brain. But did the coma do even more damage to our beloved patriarch than we thought? Well, a popular fan theory is that Homer never woke up at all, and that every episode after this one takes place in his head. And before you call everyone crazy, there is some serious evidence to back this up. Not only would this explain why the plots of the show get more outlandish over the years and why the timelines don't match up, but in the episode Homer the Heretic, God actually tells Homer that he'll die in 6 months. And the clip show aired almost exactly 6 months after Homer the Heretic, so are we reading too much into it? Probably. Is it compelling anyway? You bet your ass it is. The first door. Homer's signature expression, door, became so popular that it even entered the Oxford English Dictionary in 2001. Whilst the phrase did exist long before The Simpsons came along, door was definitely popularized by Homer's voice actor. His delivery of the word is iconic, which makes it all the more impressive that he actually came up with it all on his own. As is now a folklore, whilst recording for The Simpsons when it was just a short on the Tracy Ullman Show, it was one innocent line marked annoyed grunt that eventually became the iconic door that we know and love today. Little did anyone know at the time that a piece of television had just been made by this weird improvisation, but the saying and the show are now so synonymous with each other that you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who doesn't immediately associate the sound with Springfield's most famous resident.